はじめまして。私はアンナですわ。そしてファンタスマ、この子ともどもよろしくお願いしますね。ああ、リラックスして最高の夢を見させてあげます。
What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Hardcorn, and today we're looking at the newest addition to Action Taimanin. This is Phantasma. We're gonna see what she's got going on, and if she's right for you. So let's get started. For starters, Phantasma herself is a suppressed demon that gives her very good access to most of the strongest supporters and most versatile setups in the game. Her stats itself are going to be at 81, 50-82 on HP, 52-30 in attack, 53-48 in defense, and 39-20 in crit. So in terms of stats at 81, 50-82 in terms of base HP puts her about on the lower end of the pack. When everybody has over at least 5,000, the averaging about probably what? 5,200, the average is about 5,200 to 5,300. She sits at the very low end, so she's got low HP growth there. Her attack is extremely high. It rivals the amount of Spinel. And in defense, she doesn't beat Kirara yet, but she comes pretty close. I mean, really close. It fits that, so they share weapons. But in criticals, though, she is very lacking in that department. The average for crits is at 81 is 41.89. She sits at 39.20. Not bad, but it certainly will need help, so she can actually compete with the likes of Sakura and Aina. In terms of weapons, she shares weapons with Kirara and Eleanor, so if you have a great collection built up alongside getting your other gacha weapons, you're already ahead of the curve in terms of leveling her up to actually be quite devastating, because she doesn't need a lot to get going, because she can sure help herself even with low to weak gear. In terms of costumes, let's take a look. She's got her basic outfit, the limited desire point wedding outfit, the bath towel. Her rival costume itself is Lilim, the awakened form Lilim actually, so if maybe one day we eventually will get Lilim to actually play with. The secret gift, secret garden, and the maid outfit, all great stuff. Now let's take a look at what she gets by leveling up her affinity. At level 5, it's AP plus 5. Level 10, AP plus 10. Level 15, EXP 10% bonus. And level 20, that's a 10% increase in item drop rate. So now let's take a look at her skills and special abilities. To start off, we have her passive. This is Nightmare. It says when enemies are hit by skill attacks, they receive 1 stack of Nightmare. That's not per hit, that's on the first hit. So most of her attacks are multi-hit ones. So on that first hit, they only get 1 stack. Please remember that. And the second part of it is that it draws a magic circle around herself, which reduces the defense of enemies within the circle by 20%. This circle itself is about within melee distance of most characters. So she's able to immediately give 20% defense down when in sniffing distance of the other characters. So she is just all around made to just weaken and enfeeble enemies. Nightmare itself is a debuff as well. It is stated as becomes groggy on 10 stacks and reducing defense by 20% for 10 seconds. Nightmare as a stack with a little ghost icon does not actually give defense down. When it hits 10 stacks, just like Terrorize, the groggy effect applies alongside a separate defense down stack. This defense down is unique, so it actually can stack with Terrorizing Aura and also the Nightmare Defense Aura. That's 40% defense down if you're actually able to apply all 10 stacks. And it's not hard to do it either. Now let's go on to the skills. Phantasma herself is wholeheartedly an upgrade to Shizuru. Her field effect doesn't give a heal, but it gives attack up, better melee attacks, and she offers much more flexible play and forms of healing. And also, a much better unique debuff. We'll start off though with Dream Shadow. This is her first Taimanin art, and it modifies her regular projectile she shoots to do more damage. The way that she attacks normally is by holding still, moving slightly a little bit to shoot out projectiles that move slowly and have pierce. It's very easy for enemies to walk out of this duration or you just miss them completely. This is probably more or less for arena because in my testing I've actually found it's quite nice for her to just stand still because they can't miss the enemy because it's on a fixed straight plane. In arena at least. The projectiles are already very slow, but now the flight time actually seems worth it because this is the damage boosting one. It just does way more damage, and since it pierces, it can just hit more enemies at once and get better particles. It's neat in the arena, but if you just use it anywhere else, you're just going to get kicked in the face by like machines or something. Now I move on to Succubus Whispers. This is the premier support skill for her. The attack itself, when you drop the field, gives a 20% attack up to her and everybody else in and on her team, but it really requires the full set to get something out of it. So you can drop this thing down for a fast DPS boost to the team. You'll almost always run this in the set because of the enormous range, and it gives flexible options for movement to still deal damage and still get the boost from it. The dot itself of the circle is nothing too special. It's really there to just apply Nightmare to the whole group. However, this whole field lasts 8 seconds. The cooldown with the max skill boost is about 10 seconds, so it has extremely high uptime. Red also turning the 20% damage boost into 30% is a really great way to counter attack down debuff when you get hit. It doesn't heal, so you need somebody like Lapis to help patch up the whole team. It makes Lapis's healing better too, when she uses her attack heals too. Now I move on to Dream Claw. This is the second Taimanin art she has. It's the speed version. It innately changes how she plays by changing her basic shot from projectiles to melee attacks. She gets out Wicked Weaves and just does fast slashes in a really large arc in front of her. It flows much nicer than her slow projectiles and is just generally much more fun to play. I can see this being a mainstay of many players since the claws are just all around active, better in 3D space. Not to mention, you'll be in melee distance a lot, so you get the Terrifying Presence aura to activate, inherently increasing your DPS. On a slasher horror over here, like a true nightmare, she strikes like a bolt of lightning and leaves you debilitated and scarred. It's a simple buff or debuff skill that's super duper spammable. It's a great way to chip in damage and refresh nightmare stacks. If you have the 4th skill slot, this would totally be worth considering to take everywhere, because it's simple colors, simple solutions, it's fast damage. There's no reason not to take it if you have the 4th slot. But that's the glory of Phantasma. You can be very versatile with her. Now here's Phantasmal Mirror. Mirror itself is one of the simpler skills. On extreme dodge, she leaves a clone that taunts enemies to it and gives defense down from within its aura. It's a defensive measure that also turns into an assault charge. The simplistic nature of it makes it easy for you to take it in any build because it inadvertently is a vacuum effect with the taunt, and it also doesn't require you to break the armor. Not to mention, it's a team DPS increase because of the defense down it brings to that local area. It's very, very helpful in just about everywhere it goes. Here's Crunching Fear. She summons a demon slave and throws it from the depths to land in an area in front of her. A skill designed at everybody's heart. It gives a speed buff, it heals, and has a damage modifier rather than critical. It's super spammable as well. If this skill was before the melee range demarcation update, there'd be plenty of arguments whether or not it was one or the other. It oddly enough is melee, so you actually do have to pay attention to that. This skill also heals on every hit. There's only 2 hits from it getting summoned and going in the air and landing, but they're going to be really good heals regardless. You just got to be careful though when you're using it, because she's not armored during the skill, so she's prone to getting interrupted. Like during any sort of big enemy that has the ability to knock her out of it, they'll do it. This is Clinging Nightmare. It's a really nice little fun damage over time attack. It's not going to do the craziest damage, but it hits so many times. At no colors, it's good for cleaning up small trash enemies. If you're going with red, you can use the White Feather Asuka supporter in the main, and this skill is for breaking armor back to back. Thanks to the size of the cloud, you can actually use Mirror to group up enemies and break a whole bunch of armor instantly. It's really fun on regular levels, but not so much outside of VR without White Feather. This is Twister Dance. Fancy returns her Demon Slave to bring forth a multi-hit drill attack. This is her second skill that heals, and it heals on every hit. Green having a high uptime buff and blue giving a slow of the same nature make this skill a great flex pick option. Strong hybrid skill for all the benefits that it brings in every color. Since it shares inputs with Whispers, you have to something for group content and also for solo. Now with Impaling Terror here, Phantasma will teleport behind the furthest enemy and backstabs them. The instant speed reduction on hit on an enemy that lives through this skill is very nice. The hitbox of this also is extremely huge, so she can actually get a good hit on several enemies with the attack. Phanta, of course, is not armored during the skill, so she can get hit out of the skill during the strike. This skill has more value in Arena since it applies groggy and benefits from being on a fixed 1v1 plane. Now on to Phantasmal Shades. This is another one of those on-hit skills to advance your recovery. It does low damage, has low cooldown, and even lower expectations. It's another kind of useless 81 skill. The speed buff is nice, but there are other skills in her kit that contribute more while giving the same buff. Like, you think this could be probably useful in somewhere like Arena, where you get hit a lot. Even at the maximum 50% cooldown, that's 3 seconds. So you can use it for her to shoot 5 orbs that don't do a lot of damage. There are other counterattacks in this game that do a hellacious amount of damage, but this isn't one of them. So you can honestly skip this and be just fine. Alright, now that we've seen it all, now let's conclude on Phantasma. Phantasma herself can really do it all. She gives great debuffs in the form of groggy, stuns, slows, and especially defense down. She has something to solve nearly every situation she gets in, whether that's strategic or just brute force. They've once again pulled a Rin with releasing a busted pretty woman with more answers than actual questions. Because of this, it makes team composition easier, as everything you need is within the character. Phanta does this really well, as she's the replacement for Chizuru. Phanta replaces Shizzy by having faster gameplay options, proper ranged, a more useful unique debuff, and less cumbersome and more useful debuff applications, and not to mention, greater team utility. You can run both, but life is much better with Lapis as a team tank and healer with Phantasma debuffing. Phantasma excels with AoE attacks. Many of her skills are designed to hit or can incapacitate multiple enemies at once or bring them together, not to mention her incredible nuking capability. However, the most important question is this. Is she worth it? Of course she's worth it. I mean, look at her. She looks fantastic, and she plays even better. Having her will clear lots of hard content for solo and groups. Not to mention, she's one of the finer looking models as of late. I mean, Grammy's really come a long way with this. Like, she's looking fantastic. I can hardly believe it myself. But if you get Phantasma, she will certainly be a fine addition to your team. And as always, thank you everybody for coming on by and learning about Phantasma with me. Don't forget to like, comment, rate, favorite, and subscribe. I love seeing it. You love seeing it. I love seeing them too. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.